Hi. The Romans. What did they ever do for us, eh? Oh, just a few mosaics like this one that you can see here behind me. This is a couple of workmen who uncovered this in a crossrail excavation, I believe. And this is in Southwark, and you can see behind there the Shard. So you can sort of locate where it is. I believe this is Southwark Street. What a lovely bit of flooring you've got there. Lovely bit of tiling. Excellent work. So, of course, they brought us art, architecture. They gave us civic organisation, the precedents for politics and the modern tax systems, and just a few things. Government, various things. Yeah, nothing important, though. Nothing important. No, apart from, a little thing beginning with S and ending in X. Yeah. Yeah. Of course, the Romans established the trade in flesh and the trade in selling one's body, as it were. I'm a bit afraid TikTok is going to somehow censor me because they're a bit funny about this kind of thing on social media, aren't they? But the first red light district, essentially in London, was set up by the Romans in Southwark 2,000 years ago. Here's just some tiling here. I don't believe this is from Southwark. I believe it is, not tiling, painting, erotic painting from Pompeii, where we have most of our preserved examples of the brothels at the time. The brothels in ancient Roman England, in ancient Roman Southwark, were the same as other brothels elsewhere in the empire. They were known as lupanaria. Lupanaria. It's got a beautiful sounding name, isn't it? Although what went on in there was probably a lot less than beautiful. But lupanaria because it came from the Latin term for wolf, which is lupo, which is the same in Italian to this day. And why were they called that? What is the connection with wolves? Well, it goes back to the story of Romulus and Remus and, the two being suckled by a she-wolf. It was also connected with the idea that prostitutes were good at suckling, i.e. giving oral sex, and there was a sort of play on words with that. Now, as we're going to see, or as you're going to see if you come along to my tour, Sinners, Saints and Saviours, which is, of course, led by the spirit of a Roman local whore guide called Lydia Chlamydia. The Roman sex trade in Southwark was very organised, as it was all over the empire. And in the early days, the army brothels, which was probably the lowest rank of the low that you could serve in, was populated by slave girls who were brought over in chains and were confined to horrific conditions, as you can imagine, not having any, not even agency, but they had no right to be Roman citizens and they had pretty much no rights at all. There's an example I'm going to show you just now of one of the beds that they were, a stone bed that they would have basically done all of their business on day and night. There it is there. There's a little example there of the very comfy cot that the Roman whores would have used. They would have been buildings, set into cells, very narrow cells where, basically the soldiers would quickly do their business and then leave very quickly for the next man to come in. And most of these girls didn't reach the age of 30. As the Roman occupation went on, towards the end of the occupation, some of the whores managed to be slightly more independent, perhaps, and have slightly better conditions. They could register themselves. Obviously, then they had to pay tax. It was all very well organised. But it was all considered, above board and actually a service to society. It was seen as, better than the men, putting their unused testosterone to worse things or potentially raping other men's wives and daughters. So it was seen as a way to keep them occupied. Of course, prostitution goes hand in hand with lots of other vices, and at the time, drinking. Heavy drinking was a big one. Nothing like a bit of Dutch courage before visiting your lupanaria of choice, as it were. But also blood sports as well, you know, gladiator combat, but also blood sports involving animals. And this pretty much set a precedent for the area, for all of Southwark for the next, well, 2 millennia, really. Okay, we don't have public blood sports now, and it's not so easy to find the brothels in Southwark now, but no doubt they're still there. And drinking is still as much a big thing with all the pubs as it ever was. But it's certainly in the medieval era, I beg your pardon, reached a bit of a peak, reached a bit of a zenith, and became a den of iniquity, at least for the next few hundred years or so. And it was famous for that. And we're going to explore that in more detail and what that meant for the women of Southwark and some of the more notable characters that were involved in the trade. So if you'd like to know more about Roman Southwark and how the Romans basically built Southwark and created the industry and trade there that it later became famous for, then do come along to Sinners, Saints and Saviours, which is the name of our new tour exploring this area. And that will be launching on the 24th of May, and it will also be running on the 26th of May. So you can buy your tickets now to experience this and also be theatrically introduced to these characters. It's not just a walk and tour. My tours are never like that. I'm going to bring them to life with acting, comedy, and entertaining little vignettes. So, and immersive, you know, I mean, you are going to be able to get involved yourself at certain points. Don't be too afraid by that. It's all right. Nothing scary. So if you would like to come along, do book a ticket. I will post the link in the description below and hope to see you there. After all, when in Rome...